Bio students, this is Chapter 1, Overview of Scientific Study of Life. We will review the characteristics of life and the characteristics of science. We're going to leave the other 3 bullet points for next semester. Just a reminder, keep up with your objectives. If you can answer them in detail, you're in great preparation for your next exam. So we know biology is the study of life, and we know that all living things share common characteristics that distinguish them from the non-living things. But what are the criteria that separates living from non-living things? One activity I usually use with my students is, okay, split these up into living and non-living things. Once you do that, take a moment, pause it, try it yourself. Then I want to know the criteria for you separating them into living and non-living. Hopefully you're going to list some of these. Living things are composed of the same atoms and molecules, like SHNOPS. Remember SHNOPS. It's a great acronym for carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Those other elements listed there are equally as important, but they help make up carbs, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids that are essential for living organisms. Living things have to acquire and use energy, produce waste, reproduce, grow, and develop, respond to stimuli. Populations of living things evolve over time. Living things have to follow the tenets of cell theory, maintain homeostasis, organization, and boundaries. So, I did go through this a little fast. Let's look in a little bit more detail of what each one is. Cell theory. Cell theory is typically 3 or 4 main ideas, but we're going to add a little bit more detail. So, all known living things are made up of 1 or more cells. The cell is the structural and functional unit of all living things. It's the smallest unit of structure capable of carrying out all of life's processes. All cells have to come from pre-existing cells by division, mitosis or meiosis. Cells contain genetic information, so DNA, that is passed from cell to cell during that cellular division. All cells contain the same chemical elements, that's the SHNOPS. They also have the same structures, a membrane, genetic material, and cytoplasm. All energy flow of life occurs within cells. Keep in mind levels of organization as you're studying biology. Remember that atoms are the smallest unit that we can discuss, but cells are the functional unit of life. We can take that all the way up to the biosphere. Living things cannot function or live without the following: osmoregulation, water balance, nutrient acquirement, waste elimination, a carbon source for food, thermoregulation, atmospheric pressure, and maintaining homeostasis. So, of course, the smallest chemical unit of a type of pure substance is an element or an atom. Next, atoms will make up molecules like DNA or water. Molecules combined together will make up organelles like a chloroplast, which will make up a cell. Cells will make up tissue. Tissues make up organs. Organs make up organ systems. Organ systems make up organisms. The organism then makes up a population, and this is where evolution can occur. Populations make up communities. Communities make up ecosystems, and then the ecosystem forms, multiple ecosystems forms the biosphere. What's interesting about the way life is organized is that new emergent properties arise at each level of biological organization. So what the endothelial cell could perform, functional-wise, the capillary actually has a new property. It can actually carry those red blood cells through it, whereas the endothelial cell or a sheet of tissues could not. So emergent property is a good vocabulary word to know. The capillary has properties that its components alone lack. Which of the following statements is false? So if you could, pause the video here. Is it organs consist of tissues, populations consist of organisms, molecules consist of cells, organisms consist of atoms, or organelles consist of molecules? The correct answer is C. Molecules consist of cells, because we know that molecules put together can make up organelles, and organelles will then make up cells. So that is incorrect. What is the best example of emergent properties? Pause it. Correct answer is B. Welding metal together makes an office building. So moving on, characteristics of life. We know that all life shares organization and energy use. We get energy from the sunlight. Producers extract the energy and nutrients from the non-living environment. Some of that heat is given off once the plant produces its own food. It's given off to the outside environment. And then consumers will then eat the plant, obtain their energy and nutrients by eating the plant itself. So nutrients are being recycled here to the decomposers, but heat again is one directional. Energy flow is one directional, whereas nutrient flow is cyclic. Okay? So heat is always given off. Decomposers are consumers that obtain nutrients from dead organisms and organic waste. Again, heat is given off, lost every time energy is being transferred. Another one is maintenance of internal constancy. Homeostasis is our big $10 word here. It's a process by which a cell or organism maintains equilibrium. So a thermostat is our analogy for how life maintains internal constancy. We have an internal thermostat as humans that helps maintain temperature, homeostasis. So you shivering, your muscles are generating heat so that your body can maintain that 98.6 average. And of course, putting on clothing helps with that. But it's not just about temperature. Organisms also fluctuate around their optimal nutrient, salt, water balances, even pH. So here's just a little background information on homeostasis. It's a concept first noticed by French physiologist Claude Bernard. He noticed a stability in various physiological functions like heart rate, blood pressure, and body temperature. So in 1929, the term homeostasis was officially coined by the American physiologist Walter Cannon. Homeo means like or similar, stasis meaning fixed or stationary. Thus we have homeostasis. Homeostasis is not a dynamic steady state. It's not being equal. Okay, there is some sort of change happening all the time in our external or internal environment. Every time you eat something, step into a new classroom, step outside after you've been inside all day. Something is changing with an organism. Okay, so loss of homeostasis occurs due to change, and it is sensed by the organism. And so what the organism tries to do is correct that change. Ultimately, if homeostasis is not reestablished, then there's some sort of disease going on, an illness, or even death with the organism. This takes us to a term called set point. A set point is really an average of values within a normal range. Okay, examples can be body temperature, can be weight. If your average weight or your set point weight that you normally return back to is 150 pounds, we would call that your set point. Body temperature average is 98.6. Okay, that would be your normal set point. Control systems keep variables near the set point or the optimum value. Blood pH can vary between 7.35 and 7.45. That's neutral or slightly basic, but if you're even a tenth off, you could die from it. So we have a negative feedback that says, hey, fix our pH, and it takes it back to our set point. This is what homeostasis is. So there are two types of homeostatic control. There's negative feedback and there's positive feedback. In A&P, I like to tell everybody that pretty much everything is negative feedback when hormones are involved, but there's only like 2 or 3 positive feedback examples I can think of. One of the positive feedback examples is labor for childbirth. The other one is blood clotting. Okay, so those are our main 2 positive feedback. And what positive feedback is, it tells the change to keep happening. Okay, so in bullet point number 2, it says the action of the effector amplifies the changes that first stimulated the effectors. Basically, it's going to say, deliver the baby, keep pushing that baby out, let's get it out. That's positive feedback. It keeps the change occurring. Negative feedback is the easy one. We always want to return back to the set point. So it says, shut it off, fix the system. This is the most common control system to maintain homeostasis in our bodies. Negative feedback examples: body temperature, blood pressure, breathing, pH balance, insulin and glucagon. Take a look at this diagram here. It tells you how insulin and glucagon are regulated after you eat a meal or have been starving. Basically, it's a negative feedback process where plasma glucose tells the cells of the pancreas to secrete or do not secrete certain things, and that is how our insulin and glucagon are regulated, by what we call a negative feedback to maintain homeostasis. We'll get into this a little bit more detail as we study organisms. Positive feedback, again, examples are oxytocin release during birth to keep the contractions coming and so baby can be delivered. Life reproduces, grows, and develops. Reproduction can be either asexual, like in plants or bacteria, or sexual. Offspring of asexually, like plants or bacteria, reproducing organisms are identical to their single parent. No diversity. Asexual reproduction is a successful strategy in unchanging environments. When the environment changes, typically those organisms will die out. Offspring of sexually reproducing organisms receive genetic material from two different parents. Most plants and animals reproduce sexually. These young swans receive genetic material from two parents. Sexual reproduction is successful in changing environments, since offspring are unlike either parent. They are a unique organism. This plantlet and the swan both started as a single cell and have grown and developed into multicellular organisms. Which of the following statements is true about reproduction? Go ahead and pause it. Correct answer is A. Sexual reproduction creates genetic variation among organisms. We know that all life responds to a wide variety of stimuli at all levels of organization. So cells can respond to stimuli, tissues can respond to stimuli, organs, and the whole system can respond to an outside stimuli. So how is it that so many organisms seem perfectly suited to their environment? Well, after a discussion with our article, you'll realize that life does actually evolve. The pygmy seahorse blends into the coral habitat where it lives. Seahorses that blend in best likely survive the longest and reproduce the most. Bacteria actually have been observed to evolve quickly. Over time, one bacteria will have mutated, and that will lead us to an antibiotic-resistant bacteria within multiple generations. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria are most successful when antibiotics are present. So if you can answer what are the roles of natural selection and mutations in evolution, you're probably on the right track to studying for our test. This is going to be the end of review for characteristics of life. Our next video is going to be on the three main branches of life.